Hello and welcome to 6th grade's first math lesson online. This is totally new and super exciting. We are the wave of the future. So anyway, after Miss Ballard spent about an hour trying to figure out how to make this work, we are going to start today with lesson 66, which is ratio problems involving totals. So when you do your math lessons for me, what I'm going to want you to do is to read through the lesson in your book first. Okay, the more you see it, the better it will be for you. It'll be easier. So go ahead and pause the video now and read through the lesson first. Okay, let's move on to me teaching you the lesson. So there's only 2 problems they gave us today to work on. And these are going to build off what we already know from ratio boxes. So here's our question. The ratio of boys to girls at the assembly was 5-4. If there were 180 students in the assembly, how many girls were there? And this is similar to what we've done before, but a little bit different. So I know whenever I see the word ratio, I'm going to make a ratio box. Now this is going to be a little different than previous ratio boxes. And if you look closely in your book, you will see why. So we have our ratio box on our left, and then our A is our actual on our right. But instead of doing our usual two different boxes on each side, we're going to do 3. 1, 2, 3, and they're not even. Sorry, I'm doing this with my fingers. But that's what's going to be different is this one actually has a total. It also gives me the boys and the girls. And I'm going to use my nifty highlighter tool here. Ooh, is that a highlighter? It is. So exciting. Okay. And it tells us boys to girls is the order I'm going in, so I have boy to girl, and then the ratio was 5-4. So I'm going to put that information in my ratio box. Okay, that's the first part. Then it says other information, 180 students in the assembly. So that's going to go back to my actual. And then the question is, we're going to do this one in green because we can. How many girls were there? So that's going to be looking for this number. So I'm going to have to figure out my other boxes in order to get to that. So the first thing I know I can do is I can find the total right here. Oh gosh. Here. Okay, because I can add 5 and 4, and that'll give me my total. My total is going to be 9. And then all I have left to find out is this number. Do I care how many boys there are? No, it doesn't ask me. So if it doesn't ask me, I don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to just work on my girls. So I'm not going to worry really about this part at all. That doesn't matter anymore unless they ask me how many boys there are. And I'm going to look at the girls to total, the girl and the total. Do you see a set of fractions we could do? 4/9 to something, G, is 180. Do you see how I got the fraction? Here's my 4/9, my unknown number, we're going to put G here, and my 180. So now I have my fractions, and if you remember from fractions, I can cross multiply. So now I have, I'm going to put this up here because I ran out of room, sorry. 4 times 180 equals 9G. Okay, that's what it says in your book as well. And then I'm going to multiply my 4 times 180, and using my super Miss Ballard powers, I realize that's 720, and that gives me 9G. And then the question is, how do I get my 9 by himself? So I'm going to divide both sides by 9, so 720 divided by, running out of room, 9 is G. And when I divide that, I find G equals 80. All right, girls. G-I-R-L. Ah, no! Oh, bummer. Go back. Okay, so it should say girls. Okay. Oh, gosh. Girls. Okay, so I want to make sure I circle my answer. Okay, so that's how I find out a ratio using a total. Could I also use this to figure out how many boys there were? Yes, I could. So we are going to go back a bunch. Get all this out of here. No. I'm going to go back. Okay, so going back, I found out this is 9, and I found out this is 80. So I don't need to do a ratio here if I'm trying to find out this number. Let's say they ask me what the boys is later, okay? I can use my awesome math skills and realize that this is totals, right? So 5 plus 4 is 9, so something plus 80 gives me 180. So I could say, well, 180 minus 80 gives me whatever's left over, so I should have 100 is boys. Okay? All right, let's move on to example 2. Okay, that line's going to bother me. All right, whatever. It says the ratio of football players to soccer players was 5 to 7. If the football players and soccer players in the room totaled 48, how many were football players? So let's highlight our pertinent information here. Okay, so I know the ratio is 5 to 7. I'm going football to soccer. And the total is 48. So the question is, how many were football players? So now I'm going to make a ratio box because it has the word ratio in it. There's my really sweet ratio box. You always have my ratio R on the left and my actual on the right. And I'm going to do football, soccer, and what's my last box? Total. Yay. Okay. And I'm looking back at this information right here. So I have 5 to 7, and I know the total is 48. So you have to ask yourself, am I going to put my 48 here? Oh, you can't see my fingers. Am I going to put it here, or am I going to put it here? So it has to go in the actual if it tells us the total. And then I'm going to figure out the ratio total. So 5 plus 7 gives me 12. And it's asking me the football players. So I'm looking for this number right here. And to do that, I'm going to put a letter here. I'm going to put an F. Right now, I don't care about this box. I'm not going to worry about that box. It's not asking me about the soccer players. So now I have enough numbers to make fractions. So I have a 5 and a 7 and a letter and a 48. And from those, I can make fractions. So I'm going to write 5/12 equals something over 48. Now, every time I have a letter with a fraction, I always cross multiply. That gives me 5 times 48 equals 12F. According to my book, 5 times 48 is 240, and that gives me 12F. Now I need to get F by himself, so I'm going to divide by 12 my 240, and that's going to give me 20F. And I need my label, so this is 20 players. Okay, so I could say this is 20. So if it's asking me then, if I get another question, they didn't ask you this, but if they ask you later, what is your number of soccer players? I don't need to go do all my ratios again. I can just add. So I know 20 plus something gives me 48. So I can use my head and say, well, 20 plus 28 gives me 48. And it's important that you always check your work. So I have a big number, I have a small number and a big number. Do I have a small number and a big number? I do. Okay, so let's go ahead and do our practice set. So, first one, letter A, says, hang on, let me get my highlighter out. Sorry. Okay, let's try again. The bicycle store has mountain bikes and racing bikes on the showroom at a ratio, tells me I'm going to have a ratio box I already drew for you, at 3 to 5. If there are a total of 72 bikes, notice our total, on the showroom floor, here's our question, how can we find the number of racing bikes? Okay, so the first thing I need to do is set up my ratio box. So I know I have mountain bikes and racing bikes, and then my total. And a symbol you can use in math for total is that little symbol that looks like a E. That's kind of weird. So you're welcome to write that as well. So the ratio is 3 to 5, and our total is 72. Now again, I can use my math skills and say, well, 3 plus 5 gives me 8. And I'm trying to find racing bikes. So I'm going to put an R here for racing bikes. And I'm only going to look at the bottom two sets of numbers. From that, I'm going to do my fractions, cross multiply, and then I get 5 times 72 equals 8R. And using my math skills or my calculator to speed things up, 5 times 72 gives me 360 equals 8R. And then to get my 8 by himself, I divide, I divide both sides by 8. So 360 divided by 8 gives me R. And that's going to give me 45. Okay, so I know it's 45 bikes. And I circle my answer. So I could put my 45 here. Could I find from this then my mountain bikes? Yes, I would just add something plus 45 gives me 72. Or I can subtract 72 minus 45. 12 minus 5 is 7. 27. So I would also know that as well. Okay, but the actual answer is 45 bikes. Right, moving along. Okay, the recycling club collects cans and bottles for recycling. The ratio of cans to bottles was 8 to 9. If they collected 240 cans, how many items did they collect in total? So this is a little bit different than what we've been doing because they used to give us totals, but now they're going to give us another of the actual numbers. So it's going to look a little different. So we have cans, bottle, total. That's our total symbol here, if you want to be fancy. So I know that the ratio is 8 to 9 for cans to bottles. And then I have 240 cans. So normally we've been putting stuff down here in our total, but we don't know that. That's what we're going to find out, right? So we do know, though, there's 240 cans. Okay, from this is tricky. I'm going to have to do multiple steps to figure out my total, which is down here. Can I figure out this total first, though? Well, yeah, because 8 plus 9 is 17. Now I have two numbers I can work with to make fractions. So my 8 and my 17 and my 240 and the number I don't know. So I'm going to say my total is t, and I'm going to make these into fractions. Okay, and I'm not caring right now about that line. Okay, I don't care about him right now. Wow, that's a really sad t. Okay, from this, I'm going to cross multiply 8 times t equals 240 times 17. All right, so 240 times 17 is 4,080. And then I still have my 8t. And I'm going to divide both sides by 8 to get my t by itself. So now I end up with my total as 510, which I checked my book and that is correct. So this is 510. We could just say items. Okay, I don't even need to worry about my other line because they didn't ask me for it. So then I can go down to my last one, which says the ratio of big fish to little fish in the pond was 4 to 11. If there were 1,320 fish in the pond, how many fish were there? That sounds an awful lot like oh, here we go. How many big fish were there? Okay. So, that's why you read your problems, because it didn't make any sense. So, I have my total here. I'm looking for my number of big fish, and I'm going big to little. So, I'm going to write B to L. Here's my total. Remember, that's my fancy symbol for total. And I know this is 4 to 11. And then I know my total number of fish, actual, is 1,320. I can use my awesome math skills to add 4 plus 11 gives me 15 in my ratio. And I'm asking for big fish, so I'm going to be looking here. So I can put a B for big fish. Now I can make fractions with the 2 rows that I know. 4 over 15 equals B over 1,320. Okay, so from here I'm going to cross multiply. I get 4 times 1,320 equals 15b. And from that I get 4 times 1,320, 5,280 equals 15b. I divide that by 15. 352 gives me B, so 352 fish. So that would be what's right here. Okay, hope you did well on your practice set. Next thing you're going to do is you are going to do your odds on your homework. When you're done with your odds on your homework, you are going to check your homework using your information that I sent your parents. So what you're going to do next is odds on homework. Okay, then you're going to check answers. I sent your parents an answer key. Mom or dad has answer key. Okay, and then after that, next step is you're going to take photo of homework and send to Miss Fox. Okay, that is on her email is on your battle plan sheet. So go ahead and send that to Miss Fox. You don't need to send a photo of all your homework, just send one photo is fine. Make sure that your name and your assignment is on the photo.